welcome to Dojo Live this Thursday, August 8th, 2024. This is coincidentally the 8th and final episode of our series, The Hospitality Advantage, Real Stories of AI in Action. I'm your host, Kim Lantis, and joining me again here on the show is David Chestler, President of Provision Partners. Hey, David.
Hi, Kim. Good to see you.
Hi. Good to see you as well. And SVP and subject matter expert of travel and hospitality tech at Encora, Fabiana Moura. Hi, Fabi.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
Good, I'm good. Thank you. You know, David, Fabi, we started the series with you. So I think it's only fitting that we also ended this series with you as well. It has been quite a learning journey. For sure. You know, over the past 7 episodes, and it's taken us, I think, almost 4 months to get here. It's been wild. We did take a bit of a break because of high tech on July 4th, but it's been really great. Every other week, we've seen time and time again on the show that AI really is not a one-size-fits-all solution, which I think can be intimidating a little bit, but also super exciting, right? And we walked through quite a few examples of AI in action, that's the title, and how it's being strategically applied in a variety of companies, both in their own internal operations and also, of course, in the products and solutions that they are creating. We talked to companies like Inspire, Switchfly, Sabre. We also got to talk to Encora, shout out there, a lot of the technology leaders there to uncover data and cloud and sort of this juxtaposition, right, of wanting to lock that data down, but also the crucial need to access relevant, accurate, diverse data in order to make this AI work properly. And last week, wrapping it up, bringing us kind of full circle, we talked about AI's impact on the traveler's journey, what that means for UI, UX with Sandra Vasquez at Encora. She shed, say that 10 times fast. She shed light on the importance of tailoring services and individual preferences and needs, which I think we did see throughout the series, and the need to pay attention to a seamless transition, right? Everyone's so used to this transition and utilizing AI in all of facets of our life that travel's going, and now no different in that expectation. So everything from booking to check-ins, this in-stay experience, the post-travel engagement, and also an increased interest in sustainability and ethical travel options, which I know is right up your alley, Fabi. And she used that magic word again, which was data-driven insights. But all of this to come around full circle to wrapping this up and to kick off today's conversation, I'd like to take it back to those 3 companies that we got to visit and get to know: Inspire, Switchfly, Sabre. You know, Inspire solution was converging, the front and the back of house for a better guest experience and operational efficiency. We talked with Switchfly and their recommender systems, improving conversion, upsells, loyalty, hotel attachment, and finally Sabre's retail studio, which is kind of getting in line with what Sandra was saying in terms of the ability for hoteliers to go beyond the booking of rooms and to think more about just all services and offering sort of this Shopify for hotels. So I know this is a really long intro, but I'd like to know your takeaways there, starting with such cool examples that we got to see of AI in action in hospitality.
Ladies first, of course.
Obviously, if I have to pick one particular example from the ones that we talked about, I really like what Sabre is doing with the retail studio, right? Because I feel like it's bringing hospitality closest to retail, which we know historically is about 10 to 15 years ahead in the .com of the world. I think when we think about that level of experience that they're now positioning in this industry, it's really thinking about more the experience side of things from a consumer perspective. Mm-hmm. So I really like that.
I agree. Sabre had some great examples with the retail studio. I also love the idea of how they're using AI in the service delivery support side of it. And I think that's enhancing their relationship with customers and internally in being able to enhance the offering. And that makes the colleagues more confident engaging with customer. Mm-hmm. And I think very brave of the organization from the top to the bottom to execute. And we like that.
And it goes back to the iteration too, the testing, and their motto is to kind of test their stuff internally, and then they kind of are able to confidently roll it out to their
right?
customers.
What happens with success? And we love that you then iterate on that. Switchify, I love how they're doing it at the point of acquisition, the tip of the spear, as we like to say, in trying to shift and personalize more for the customer, which we establish all the way through this is really going to be important in how you create the commerce environment for that guest, increase conversion, personalize and price appropriately for leisure or corporate, and all of these variations that are going to expand beyond the human's capability. And now technology is going to need to support it and amplify, right? And then watching Martin with the bravado to be able to develop a company and early days invest in a new technology that was now starting to become an older technology new again. That really started to bridge that or create the conversion as we talked about. And I think those examples coming from where we started, that ideation phase, the design-led thinking, that allows you to think across silos and organizational structures. Think of the contingencies of products and your existing software and systems and how you pull reports and manifest them. Trying to automate that, trying to use the data and train the machines to learn from that to give you that data-driven insight. That's the part that's really exciting that we saw in practice. We created from ideation through to practice, testing, qualification. And then, as we said, where the rubber meets the road is the UI UX piece, because that's how we make it all come together. And that's where it's really exciting that we see companies that you could bridge the gap from the legacy to the next generation cloud and similar by utilizing a better UI UX environment and moving things. We talked lift and shift, but moving to the cloud, using your data more intelligently, right? And I think that's what we want to proselytize. That's what we think Encora has been saying and sharing with your experts. And that's what Fabi preaches when we're out in the marketplace, right? So that's my intake from what we saw in this series.
Absolutely. And it was great for me too to see companies like Inspire. I think there's this focus, frankly, on the experience side, right, of the guest, the end user in that sense. But it's great to be able to take the employees into account as well. A theme that I think Shane O'Flaherty of Microsoft talked about with me a bit at High Tech too, right? Because we do have to sort of strike this balance. And striking balance, I think when we started the series, it's in the title, we had AI not strictly, but very much in mind. And that was our point of interest here on the show. And what we very early on discovered was this trifecta of sorts, the AI, data, and cloud. Sort of, you can't have one without the other. Fabi, let's speak to that and what you kind of took away with Encora's leaders mainly.
Yeah, no, I think we had a great opportunity to highlight the importance of the early on changes that need to happen before AI adoption, right? I know we brought in Manuel from a cloud perspective and how you need to be on cloud before anything else really does happen, right? From a data perspective, we brought in Nagraj and his expertise, and we were able to talk about data governance. And I know there's a lot of, doubts on how much of it do I keep on lockdown, how much do I really share, right? There's just a lot of still confusion. And I think being able to bring the likes of Nagaraj and, David, and having these open conversations, it's really what's going to start to position you for AI, right? And what that can be like. So I think the opportunity here, it's really to look beyond just AI and perhaps reshift on cloud and data as the first two steps, very relevant, and then eventually AI.
Absolutely. And I think that was one of the Sabre playbooks too that Frank Trampert had mentioned, right? They actually stepped back 2 or 3 years, I think, on the innovation side to make sure that they were well positioned to innovate and then get themselves, I think, in that fast rhythm. David, what was your take on this trifecta?
Well, again, the learning is so important for these machines, right? And how you bring this new technology that's not new into your environment, into the commercial environment. That's where we earnestly believe that it needs to be in a planned approach, that you need to assess, where am I applying the technologies? We recommend small iterative projects so that you can iterate, see your success, improve upon it, or take the learnings and continue. We think that's critical because there's so many times you try and build this, we're going to AI wash the entire business and bring everything into the new technologies with fuzzy logic and computer vision. And I think what happens is trying to understand, how do we pay for it? How do we build the capabilities inside the company? How do we justify the ROI? Where we've seen some companies deploy and fail, even though they had AI in the business and they had great customers, and it was difficult to figure out, how am I going to pay for this? How am I justifying so much? And I think what's happened is the projects have become smaller and iterative. They've become manifested in a way that allows you to make step changes in either customer engagement or internally the way you optimize data, so that I could present better decisions, better offers, better room inventory, better package, better and faster. And that's what we've seen, is it's this transformation of business going from silos into being, how do we collaborate across marketing and IT and sales, that omni-channel initiative. And that's where we see budgeting, planning, CIOs coming with the word scary, only because they're being asked to fund a lot of this out of their existing budgets. So a lot of the iteration has to come from current roadmap, current planning and infrastructure, and sometimes we're not ready for it. And I think that's what we also identified, is that a lot of companies we're talking to aren't ready, don't have that vision set, don't have that alignment from the C-suite to the operation. The board is asking for the AI, or the board is asking for a digital transformation, and that has to be interpreted, turned into a roadmap and a plan, then budget. And a lot of the larger companies have to consider that legacy position, and how do I transform in a very, environment that's very expensive now for capital, and is also not always easy to find the right personnel. Hence why we like working with Encora, right?
Absolutely. And I guess I see there's two potential paths when you look at that, like this realization that I'm not ready. So either it can intimidate you and just paralyze you and make you decide not to do anything at all. Right. Or there's the, all right, I'm not ready, but how do I get ready? Fabi, from the experts that we talked to throughout this series, and also just your experience working with companies like Encora to support this let's get ready, what does that generally look like? What have we learned, and what might companies expect when they decide to take that leap?
I think if anything, it's really being open to the conversation, right? That's what I would like to see more, because we understand budgeting is a concern. We understand that it does take a heavy investment. And even if you feel like you're not ready, having the conversation with a proper partner like Encora, for example, with a set of expertise and a set of ideas that can potentially, power up your solution. But quite honestly, I really think it begins with conversation, as simple as that seems, Kim, because many of times the I'm not ready means I don't want to talk. And I think that not wanting to talk, it's not allowing you to learn with us as we learn this new path, because that's truly the reality that we're in.
Yeah. I agree. I think one of the takeaways to amplify what Fabi is saying, when Manuel was on the call with us talking about just getting to the cloud, that was so important in order for the deployment of AI. So even just analyzing your current tech stack and market environment so that you understand, provisioning and integrations, and even, making sure that the teams responsible have oversight and understanding of what impacts will come by any changes that you're planning. So that change management and project management, basic principles of IT, those become almost mission critical early days. Because if I'm assessing my readiness for AI, I have to do the assessment of my existing environment. And then I need to roadmap where I need to get to deploy AI in any number of areas, like we talked about. Internally, optimization of systems, personnel, even labor and ordering, procurement. There's so many ways you could layer the machine learning onto that, right? The guest-facing, commercial, conversational AI and personalization from the IPs and similar, a lot of that can be done. The construct of code and self-healing mapping, a lot of that can be AI driven, but you need to plan for it. And I think that's the part that we started to talk about. What's your current position and where do you want to get to, even from a visioning perspective, right? I want to be like this company, or I want to do that, or my customers are asking me to deliver this type of functionality from a basic chatbot. How do I do that? Or are you working, as again, Manuel started suggesting, there are large companies like AWS and Microsoft and similar that have labs. And that's where some of the larger players that we work with are going and collaborating, because they're spending millions to billions over the next few years transforming. It's nice to be able to be a part of that, those learnings, and that ecosystem. Sorry, I used that word, but that's really what I think is going to help everyone, lift all boats kind of thing. And that's where we're watching, we're reading, we read the newsletters, a lot of them more than I expected. But that's kind of the blending of the current technology to where we need to get to, and envisioning that in a transformational project.
Mm-hmm. I think, if anything, our goal throughout the series was to try to show folks that AI isn't scary, but in doing so, we did reveal that it can be complex. And I think what you were touching on, David, is this idea of leaning on others. I think Martin brought that up too. I think Frank did as well, and with some of the large names like you just brought up. Let's talk about leaning on others, looks like, or even this pressure of, is the worst thing companies can do is not to do something, like even if it's not as fast as one might hope, or as whatever else company is doing. Is that one of the worst things we can do? And let's talk about leaning on others or not reinventing the wheel. What did we learn about that?
Well, we've seen studies from some consultancies, and I'm happy to share that after the show, that have shown that you really achieve success when you have that alignment from the C-suite to the operation, that it is a planned approach, not a knee-jerk tactical, let's throw some money at it. We had learnings with the security initiatives that actually created a specific role, as we've talked about, a CISO or security officer. In similar instances, we almost need that type of team right now, looking at AI as a technology and how do we bring it into the business. And again, where we look at it, there were working through HTNG back in the day. There were three paths or journey tracks. One was the customer, another was the operator or colleague, and the one that we kept forgetting was the actual asset or the properties involved, and how they support IoT and the Wi-Fi and all the various components that are necessary for all of this to happen. The energy consumption, I mean, there's a lot that's going to impact the industry because of these changes. So to think that you can just apply a washing mechanism or to bring a chatbot in and suggest that you have embraced AI, I think that's naive. And I think that's where many of the CIOs, CTOs, and similar, the C-suite of our industry, have used the word scary, but are also using the word exciting. And they're experimenting. And the ones that we're finding and we're talking about are the ones that have experimented and are getting good feedback with customers that are using it and deploying it. Some are suffering occasionally, but by and large, there are benefits. And I think the earlier you embrace it, the farther along you will be in deploying whatever technologies they might be in your environment. But understanding that environment, understanding what needs to transform to accept the new world order, I think that's going to be critical path. It's no longer just knee-jerk reactions because the costs and the stakes are too high. And now when you add customer data into it, that's a whole new world and vulnerability because of the security risks. So we need to work together with those partners like we've talked about that are thinking through these things and working in work groups collaboratively across organizations to create success.
For sure. Fabi, what do those conversations look like on your side in terms of the discovery, the leaning on others, the partnerships? What kind of tips have you learned to get those very important conversations that you referred to earlier started?
Yeah, sure. So I think we are in a really special place where it's really about exchanging strength, as I call it, right? So it's no longer just one particular individual with a particular set of skill creating something and dispatching it out to an entire market. We know all too well that at this point that would not be a successful launch. So when I say, the collaboration piece and how important that is that you're now creating group systems, just like David mentioned, and even the customer is part of that process because now we want to understand what does that now very educated customer expects from you and the experience that you're about to bring to the table. So it's various peoples with various set of skills and strengths putting together what's next.
I love it. And bringing the customer into it, which was what the UI UX that Sandra was talking all about. David, you were something. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No. I was going to amplify again. It's that customer-centric perspective. You know, back to if you take care of your customer and you take care of your employees, the revenues will follow, right? That's always been the strategy, strategy. But the idea is that, you really need to think through right now because the costs of everything have really become significant. And I think when you start to plan and develop and think about personalization or think about tailoring to meet the needs, right? Gaining an understanding of your customer, even analyzing that data. How many times we're looking at existing data lakes or CRM systems where you don't have a golden record, and just the basics of being able to recognize and credential a guest or loyal guest. We saw at high tech several companies, Directful was one of them, that created a SMS messaging system out of CRM to go after these customers using that machine learning and AI. That's a great way to harvest your existing data to try and create repeat customers.
And nobody uses SMS anymore. It's actually unique. Like, you're not competing against very many people either.
Right? Or could you imagine using a call center? Oh my God. Yeah. But again, these are the areas where, omni-channel communications, knowing your customer and now being able to engage with that knowledge, that's going to be very important. But there's that precipice that you come to where all of a sudden you're over communicating or you're miscommunicating, right? I'm going at you for corporate and you're on a leisure trip, or I'm going after you for leisure and you're on a corporate trip. And all of these various things, if you don't do it right, it's going to leave a bad effect on the customer. An example, conversational AI. We had experience where calling in to reserve a group of rooms, and it was for a funeral. And for some reason, this brand would not let you press the button to speak to someone so that this person can make a reservation for multiple rooms with their name and have the names filled in later, like a group booking. And it became caught in this conversational AI loop where you couldn't get to a human. And that, I applaud this brand for using the technology, but it wasn't fully tested and vetted, and it didn't have a mechanism that allowed you to opt out or bypass once you got caught in it.
Yeah.
So that's where, again, I think the testing and the failing and testing again, and we don't want to deploy technologies, especially in certain mission critical environments, right, that can be harmful.
Yeah.
We want to do no harm, the Hippocratic Oath, right? So I think what we're trying to focus on is better planning, analyzing client and customer data, and making good decisions about how we deploy innovative designs for their betterment, for their experience, or for the colleague. They optimize the operation with fewer people, more technology, better. Again, that optimization phase. And that's the early stage we're at right now. We can't just let it loose and run the operation or set pricing, or although I've had a few conversations about that. But I think that's the path we're on. So where are you in that trajectory as a hospitality company or as a vendor, right? Where do you sit on this? And then as an asset owner, we just met with a number of HAMA, Hospitality Asset Management Association members, and they're trying to, manage between the brand requirements and their own requirements for independent hotels and their own portfolios of what do we invest in, what do we buy, what do we vet, what do we test, where do we test. I mean, this is a very active environment, and I think we've proven that technology improves the asset value. So now it's putting more emphasis on how do we continue to enhance and improve our ability to communicate this, to showcase that. And that's really what we're all working on collaboratively.
And I think really important too, David, as we expand into a more machine-oriented world, we can't forget about the human touch, how important that is, the psychology that goes into it, the emotions, because people are still the ones consuming these technologies. So back to your example being a funeral, that in particular, there's a certain emotion state of mind that's present where a situation like this becomes 3 times worse, right? So just little bites of things to think about.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely. In terms of this learning posture, right? That's something that we've seen, or I hear. I think we saw it throughout the series. We're hearing it again now. What have you seen for companies and you as individuals that are good tactics to help cultivate that posture of this continuous learning, this openness, this iteration? What's worked for your companies and what's worked for you as people?
My focus has always been on hiring the right people with the right attitude. That curiosity is very important. Just making sure you have someone who's very interested in technology and the impact of technology on the human engagement, making sure that's a person that's involved and looking across what you're doing. Those simple types of adjustments or tactics are hugely helpful. So my learnings, it's almost that saying of measure twice, cut once. I'm going to spend a little bit more time in planning. I'm going to spend a little more time in questioning impact and costs and value, right? What's the value equation here? Because I don't want to just spend money for the sake of spending money. I want to create a lift, and whether it's a operational change or a revenue capitalization opportunity. That's always our focus, is what's the outcome that we're targeting. That's what we started with on this series. The outcome we wanted is to show that AI and technology is not scary, that it can be expensive, but if planned properly, you can deploy. And we provided examples of that. So I think, that's what our planning has done, and that's what our focus has done. And I think you guys, I applaud you and Dojo Live and Fabi with Encora for everything you guys are doing to elevate the marketplace. And we at Provision truly appreciate that vision that you guys have shared.
Thank you. Thank you. Fabi, learning at Encora and also in your own life?
I think in my own life, the way that I go about on the personal and the professional side is that I wear my training shoes every day, Kim. I feel, if you think about the folks that go into the gym, right, they're either trying to achieve something, meaning I need to build my muscle. And then once they do, I want to maintain it, right? So it's a constant, I'm going to go in, I'm going to train. I'm either building or maintaining. And that's how I view knowledge, right? So there's a certain amount of knowledge that I have been able to acquire in my years, but it does not stop here. The world is forever changing, especially in the technological side of the business. So it's constantly learning, constantly telling myself there's something else to be known. I don't know everything, right? Even though it says expert on my title, I feel that's just a bigger responsibility to stay one with the changes in the industry.
Thank you. Thank you. Amazing. David, Fabi, as always, it is a pleasure speaking with the two of you. I cannot believe we've come to the end of our half hour already. I love learning from you and, of course, learning with you as well. I just wanted to invite the audience to stay tuned because I'm 1000% sure that there will be a series 3 headed our way. So keep up on that. But until then, please do share your thoughts, comments, and questions with us. Come with us on this journey of discovery. I know that both Provision Partners and Encora would be thrilled to have that ever important conversation with you. David, how might our viewers get in touch with you as a way to help make that decision, right, as we're going through all of these places to start and what might best benefit their organization? What's that step look like?
Provisionpartners.com, provision-partners.com is always a great place to start. LinkedIn, and look for me, David Chestler. I'm more than happy to have that conversation, and even many times excited to have that conversation.
I love it. Maybe not on Monday mornings, but
Business is business, right?
It's business, as always.
Fabi, David and his company are going to be great at help making those decisions. When it comes time for companies that have made that decision and they want to build it out, how might they go about doing that in a conversation with you or other folks from Encora?
The same. There's a lot of information, guys, on our site, Encora.com. So super easy, tons of articles. There's a page specific to travel and hospitality where you can get in touch with some of us. I'm one of them, obviously, and happy to take your inquiries. I would say LinkedIn, it's probably the easiest, fastest. DM me, happy to schedule a call.
Perfect. Thank you. And finally, just again, invitation to our audience. If you would like to feature your hospitality technology and solutions on this show, ping me on LinkedIn or check us out at the Dojo Live website, the Contact Us. You can fill in that contact guest nomination form. And we'd love to have conversations with you like we did with Inspire, Switchfly, Sabre, and do on a weekly basis with so many other companies. Thank you once again, David, Fabi, for your time, for your knowledge sharing, and everyone else. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.